I was born overseas in Italy, in Bergamo, a small city near Milan in Lombardy. And for the first few years of my life, I was an immigrant and a refugee, just because we were Jewish. The racial laws prompted my parents to find a way out. We landed in New York off of a French ship in 1939, August 27th, which was 3 days before Hitler invaded Poland. I was 4 years old. We moved to Boston 2 years after we arrived. From a very early age, I wanted to be an engineer. My major was electrical engineering. I knew I wanted to go into the digital world. I had 3 offers in California. The third was Jet Propulsion Laboratory of Caltech. Things really heated up 4 months after I came in October of 1957. The Russians launched Sputnik, and all hell broke loose. I worked on tracking satellites and communicating with them. Meanwhile, I still wanted to ultimately make it to academia. I got to teach at UCLA, wanted to prove myself, solve some problems in noise reduction in oral communication. And of course, it then applied to everything. Digitize first and then transmit and correct the errors. In 1966, I was able to come up with another approach, which turned out to be very simple to implement. One of my colleagues at JPL says, we'll call it the Viterbi algorithm, and that caught on. I didn't fight it. The algorithm was recognized for doing things like lining up DNA sequences, and in the digital recording world, voice recognition in particular. So I loved academia, but exchanges with colleagues led me to join in a 3-person startup called Linkabit. Within a year or two, there was enough interest to order a limited amount of hardware to prove it out. We got into the hardware business in Linkabit, and after 3 years of its existence, one great leader, Erwin Jacobs, took it up and brought it to San Diego, and Linkabit thrived in a number of things. And one of the first products was a Viterbi decoder, a big 19-inch rack that had to be rack-mounted. And then the company grew beyond this just coding into doing the full modem and eventually the entire satellite terminal. We also picked up a contract from HBO that was getting ready for digital TV. We had to redesign in order to make it cheaper by making simplifications. It became feasible for commercial use. One of our first customers was Walmart. Jacobs and I had 3-year contracts, and we wound up staying 5 years. I was halfway thinking of moving back to academia, but Qualcomm was founded in Erwin Jacobs' kitchen. We rented an office over a laundry, I think. I was chief technical officer, and I think vice chairman. I did a few things like moving CDMA ahead, putting it on a solid basis. CDMA is just a form of spread spectrum, of taking RF spectrum that your signal is in and spreading it out over a wider range of frequencies. That makes it look like background noise. The OmniTrack system was revolutionary, which was our first major product. There was a struggle starting in around 1990, whether to go digital with CDMA or to go digital with GSM. CDMA by the year 2000, we had one out and it was 3G. We actually cracked the European market, which was very hard to pull away from GSM, although we were giving almost an order of magnitude more users could use our system. 15 years later, I retired. At exactly age 65 on my birthday, and I taught for another 10 years or so. I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time, of having the parents I had, of being brought to the States just the right time, gotten the right education that I wanted, and then picking JPL, which gave me quite a boost. I didn't know him as a student, even though we overlapped. We met at an IEEE conference, say 62 maybe. At that point, he suggested he'd like to go to California to see what it was like. Could he get a job at JPL? I said, oh, for sure. The rest is history.